And the challenge, what can happen is if you don't release distortion patterns, the same kind of challenge appears at the same level. Right? So for example, right? So if you have challenges with scarcity, let's just say, right? And this is actually something that's happening in your life a little bit. It's like when you have challenges with scarcity, the challenge can be to clean up all your financial stuff, right? And you can think, okay, well, this is like a mindset thing. I'm just going to do it from that perspective.
Right.
But if you don't release the distortion patterns that have to do with the scarcity, the fear, the control, the lineage patterns, all that stuff, you still perpetuate those same scarcity patterns. Make sense?
Yeah.
But if you release the distortions, the challenge you encounter with scarcity will be different. So instead of like, all right, well, I'm having a challenge paying my bills. That's the level of scarcity we're at right now. Okay. What can happen is like, okay, I now have released enough distortion patterns. I don't have problems paying my bills actually, but now I want to buy a house. So that's a different level, right? So, okay, so you deal with those distortion patterns. Okay, now you've bought the house. So, but you see what I'm saying? The experience is rising up in resonance.
Right.
So now you've bought the house. Okay, well, now it's really about, we can afford the house and that's fine, but we're thinking about buying a second home. How do we get that to do? Or how do we expand our business? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
The level of the challenge that you meet will be of a higher level order because
you can meet it
you've risen in your frequency resonance.
Right.
So the challenge that you're presenting with will still exist. It's not like you never have a challenge. That's how you grow, but it's of a higher quality, right? I mean, buying a second home is a pretty nice high quality problem compared to like not being able to pay bills. Yeah.
And also probably the mundane like day-to-day challenge, like you're driving along and you have a flat tire, like those basic ones, I would think you have less attachment to.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about that big S self.
Yes.
So these little things, traffic and all the like human things, it just kind of becomes a little, the emotion maybe tied to it, there's more space.
Yeah,
between
exactly.
you and that.
There's more space. And if you have the emotion, the other thing that's wonderful about the big S self and releasing more distortion is your emotions aren't as fostered by the mind. So meaning you have the emotions. So you're in traffic and you're like, oh, for God's sake, I'm late. And now this is going to cascade into, right? So you have the emotions like, the frustration of like the time.
Yeah, because you're human.
Because you're human. And then, but what happens is, you know, when you get home that night, 8 hours later, you're not still like bound up about the fact that you were in traffic. You know, and angry about it and frustrated. You kind of forgotten about it, right? Because like you've moved on. Like you've had the frustration, you did it, and you kind of like, okay, had the emotion, you allowed it to happen.
Yeah.
And then because your resonance is high enough, it didn't really impact you. Does that make sense? You had the emotion of it. Okay. And that's fine.
And this is the point of the transcending that you're talking about.
Exactly.
So here's the problems. They're always going to happen. If you're a human being in the world, they will be there.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you don't hang on to that emotion and then like create more of that kind of emotional state. You're just kind of like, okay, well that happened, that kind of sucked, whatever. And you kind of like almost vaguely remember, you're like, oh, that's right. There's that thing that happened yesterday or today that I don't really even remember anymore.